ABC Illawarra Breakfast with Peter Riley.
Have you ever seen a whale shark? I've been lucky enough to been to Exmouth in Western Australia up at Ningaloo Reef and swim with a whale shark. I did it a few years ago. Quite spectacular. And I never thought I'd hear of one being on the East Coast. But apparently Tim Williams was fishing off Wollongong recently and spotted quite a large catch, a whale shark near Five Islands. Linda James caught up with Tim Williams, who spotted the whale shark.
First of all, I was intending on going out fishing for the day, and that was what the majority of the morning was. It ended up being quite a slow day's fishing, though, and I went out to the FAD, and then there were heaps of boats, so too busy out there. Came back into the islands, and so I was off Bass Island, which is part of the Five Islands, and it's only 3 k's from the shore at Port Kembla. And I had my line in, and I was waiting for some snapper. That's what I was targeting. I was only in probably 20 metres depth of water, and I heard a bit of noise, but it didn't faze me because I always see dolphins, I see whales. It's like once you see it all the time because they're so frequent out there, it doesn't really faze you that much. And then I looked to my left, and I couldn't process what I was seeing. There was literally the mouth of a whale shark resting on the back of the jet ski.
It had its mouth on your jet ski?
Yeah, so it was almost like it had something on its chin that it was rubbing. It wanted to scratch itself. So it rubbed itself for a little bit, and I had 2 cameras on board, by the way. Normally I'm pretty quick at getting these things, but not in a million years would I have expected to see a whale shark off the coast of Wollongong. So my brain was just not functioning at that point. I couldn't process what I was seeing.
Totally. I didn't even think they were around here.
Neither did I, and anyone that I've spoken to since had no idea that they were out here. I have heard one story of a situation quite a while ago where there was a whale shark, and a couple of weeks back, off the coast of Fraser Island, apparently there was a whale shark out there. A couple of fishermen, and it's quite possible that it was the same one. When I look at the size and compare the videos, it's hard to gauge the size, especially the GoPro distorts the view so it looks smaller, but the jet ski is 3.5 metres, and this was close to double the size of the jet ski. So pretty impressive afternoon in the end, even if I didn't catch that many fish.
Wow. Look, I know they're famous for people swimming with them off Ningaloo, for example, but they're not whales, they're sharks. They're big. Were you a little bit nervous, Tim?
Well, I've actually dived with them in Koh Samui, and I've dived with bigger ones before, but when you're on a jet ski that is half the size of these things, it's a little bit different. Had I not been near the islands, I was drifting towards the islands fishing, so too risky to jump off the ski and jump in with them at that stage. But if I was out in the open, I definitely would have jumped in. It's one of those opportunities that you'll probably never see again locally. So.
Yeah, wow. Oh, so what a wonderful thing to happen, but you reckon a bit of a missed opportunity. You wouldn't have minded jumping in.
Yeah, but always in hindsight, it is what it is, and I'm very grateful for the experience.
How much do you get out on your jet ski? I mean, usually people would take out a tinny or even a sea kayak, I suppose, but how far out do you go on a jet ski usually?
So the furthest I've been is out to the FAD, which is about 13 kilometres. So, some people go sort of 50 k's out on their ski. It's a pretty stable unit, and in some situations it's actually safer than other vessels, other small boats. So you definitely wouldn't get a kayak out there.
No, too far.
Or a tinny. But where I saw the whale shark was only around the island. So I have seen tinnies out there. That's a local spot that is normally pretty packed on the weekend. So it's quite impressive that the whale shark was just curious and swimming around and having a look in shallow waters. And I guess a bit of a concern as well is the impact of potential. What are they doing with the potential wind farms?
Oh yeah.
I don't quite know the exact distance of those, but from what I understand, they'll be around those fishing grounds, and I'm sure that's going to have an impact. Like whales are sensitive to, and I know this is a shark, but whales are sensitive to sound, and I'm sure it's going to cause issues for whales. We're getting whale sharks that are rarely sighted around here, coming up close to the islands. I'm sure construction underground is going to cause some problems for that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. That's all to be dealt with, I suppose, in all these approval processes. But what an extraordinary thing to encounter out there. Is that probably the weirdest thing you've seen out that way?
I wouldn't call it weird. I would just say it's amazing.
Unusual, amazing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we see probably one of the funniest things are the seals out there. They so once you get onto a fish, they're basically floating around waiting for you to catch fish so they can catch it off you. So there's always a bit.
You've been in a tussle with a seal before, have you?
Yeah. I mean, they usually win, but it's always an interesting experience.
Oh, well, Tim, what an experience. Thanks so much for telling us about it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Wow, isn't that amazing? Melinda James speaking with Tim Williams, who spotted a whale shark out near Five Islands. And if you have access to the internet, you can look up Tim Williams on YouTube and you'll find him with that video of him being out watching the whale shark. I wouldn't have thought you would see one off this part of the world, but maybe you've got an experience of seeing a whale shark off the coast. Now, did you hear a little earlier we were talking about whale sharks? Before the news, we heard from a local fisher, Tim Williams, who was out on his jet ski on Saturday off Five Islands and had an amazing encounter. A whale shark which sidled up to his jet ski and started rubbing his face on his jet ski. Tim caught it on camera and has posted it up on YouTube, so you should check it out. It's pretty amazing. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? What is a whale shark doing in the Illawarra? Aren't they used to living in more tropical climes? Is this unusual? Well, having been to Ningaloo Reef, I think it is unusual. Dr. Brad Norman is a whale shark expert attached to the Harry Butley Institute in Perth. He says this is unusual, but not unheard of. And he's speaking here with Mel James.
It is unusual, however, it's happened before on the southern coast of the east coast of Australia. We get a lot of whale sharks sort of in the northern part, like especially at Ningaloo Reef, where I do a lot of my work. There's hundreds of whale sharks come up there each year. We've just come back from doing a big project up in the top of the Great Barrier Reef, where we came across many whale sharks up there in sort of the end of last year. But further south, not really common, but there has been recently one just at Kagari, and I think there was a couple of whale sharks sort of south or just northern New South Wales a couple of years ago as well. They had actually been seen as far south as Eden, but
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, these occurrences are very rare, and it's really, really interesting to sort of document it and find out a little bit more about the sightings, when and where they happen.
So are they? I know that, of course, people dive with them at Ningaloo, etc.
Yeah.
Are they generally creatures that hang out in groups? Are they quite social? So if one was spotted, would there most likely be more?
Interesting question. Not so much. Whale sharks are quite solitary. They do sort of come together at the same time, but they don't hang out as friends or pairs or a group like that. They're sort of coming to an area to search for food generally, and if there's a lot of food in the area, there'll be more than one. But generally, they're fairly solitary. But it just happens at certain places there's a big pulse of food, and they turn up. Now, this is interesting down in Wollongong. I mean, there was obviously one-sided there. Well, maybe there are others, and if there are others, maybe there's a big amount of food that these guys are targeting. But that's why it's great to have citizen scientists or people that actually do see these animals, if and when they do, to actually make it known so that we can investigate further.
Well, it's certainly a popular fishing spot, and there's a colony of seals there, so I'm sure that indicates some food around as well. Yeah. Would it only really happen at this time of year when the ocean temperature is nearing its warmest for the year?
Interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, whale sharks are known as a sort of a warm water species. They do prefer water temperatures, at the surface of around 27, 28 degrees or 25 degrees. So I'm not sure what the water temperature is there, but they dive deep as well. They can dive down to 1,800 metres, and the water's pretty cold down there. So they do go up and down the water column, and they can handle warmer or colder temperatures. In fact, we just did a study looking at the effects of global warming and rising sea temperatures on their distribution. And it's really interesting to know that these guys can sort of go across a broad area. We satellite tagged one whale shark over in Western Australia that went way down to Dunsborough, down sort of the very south coast of WA, and that's actually very similar to the latitude of where this one was sighted. So it's definitely not out of the question. But as we get more reports, or we do some increase our research, we'll find out a lot more about this. Quite a cryptic species. It's one that we're still finding out things about whale sharks, every year. So these sightings are really interesting, and it'd be great to get more of them documented if and when they happen.
Now, Tim said he'd swum with whale sharks at Ningaloo. Many people listening have probably done that. You've done it. And that extraordinary documentary footage of Tim Winton swimming in this really intimate way with a whale shark. I mean, they really do allow you to get very up close and personal. Our Tim on his jet ski said he would have jumped in if he could, had some way to anchor his ski and be safe and all the rest of it, but he was on his own.
Right.
Is that an okay thing to do? What are they like as a species to interact with?
Oh, they're fantastic. I mean, I still get a buzz every time I go out swimming with whale sharks, and I've jumped in the water thousands of times, having researched them for nearly 30 years. So for me, it's still a buzz, and they're actually a gentle giant. As long as you don't sort of interrupt their movements. They're quite comfortable just to have you swimming around them, and it's one of the things that has been a very successful and sustainable industry at Ningaloo, where people do swim with whale sharks. But if people do get a chance to swim with them, providing it's safe and everybody's a good swimmer, I think it's perfectly fine to jump in the water. Just I would very much encourage don't touch them, don't grab them, don't interfere with them, let them do their own thing. But generally they're a gentle giant. And I mean, if people do get in the water and they happen to have a waterproof phone, most phones can go down to a metre or so now, or just a GoPro or a waterproof camera, to get a photo behind the gills side on to the whale shark, we can identify each individual animal from their natural spots on their skin. Oh, really?
They've all got their unique pattern?
Yeah, it's fantastic. In fact, that was one of I started a global photo ID library, 20 years ago, and we've got people from over 50 countries now sending in photos of their whale sharks that they've seen, and we can identify individuals and see whether the same ones are coming back to a location, or if it ever does happen that they're migrating between country X and country Y, then we can determine that by photo ID. That's just amazing to get the involvement or the help of members of the public in our research program. So I encourage people to, if they do get a photo, get in touch, send it into our website, which is whaleshark.org.au, and we'll identify it for people and give them a bit of information on that shark if it's been seen again.
What an amazing idea. That is some great idea. Dr. Brad Norman, whale shark expert attached to the Harry Butler Institute in Perth. Speaking there with Melinda James about whale sharks, and if you have spotted one, you can always get in touch, as he said.